All right, we're going to be moving on to other discussion items, but before we do that, I just want to say something right now, and it's for me as president of the board, but also as a board member. Kevin, I think you've done an excellent job trying to communicate. I think the community members out there have stated that, you know, you've gone above and beyond being able to address and listen to people's comments about this and everything, so I thought you did a real good job with that, so.
Thank you.
Very much so. Okay, so let's talk about the pool update.
So I had a 2-hour meeting today with White and Company. We're still trying to resolve some of the issues with our swimming pool that have been lingering since the installation from the previous project. We still are having issues after we made some additional repairs of not getting to the required CFMs. That's the cubic feet. It's a term they use in HVAC world in regards to square footage and how much airflow that needs to go into the pool. So we've done the 2 major repairs, and we're still not at the level of airflow that we would like to be at. So the 3rd repair, and the board saw a letter that I sent to White in regard to, you know, we have about 100 days left in this upcoming summer where we need to get this issue addressed before we're back in school and the second swim season is starting. Again, White was very receptive to the letter I sent them. They responded. They attended a meeting today for over 2 hours. Both Brad Paulson, Terry Moeller, and Jeff Chamberlain from 2010, who was the engineer on the swim project. We had our engineer that's representing the district as our expert. Brian Berg from Berg Engineering also attended, as well as Joel and myself. So now where we're at is seems to be, without being an engineer, I'm going to keep this as general as possible. There seems to be a drop in air pressure or static pressure in both the 90-degree elbows that are coming directly out from the supply unit as well as into the return unit. And with that static drop in pressure, that is causing a significant restriction of airflow, which is the reason why they feel we're not getting the amount of airflow through the ductwork as we're supposed to be. So there were 2 options presented. Option number 1 was to drain the pool scaffold up to both the supply and the returns that are in the ceiling and try to install new elbows. There is no guarantee that the installation of new elbows would resolve the problem. White has told us that they spoke with 3 different engineering companies as well as 2 contractors, and the second solution which they're proposing is that the contractors would go into both the supply ductwork as well as the return ductwork and eliminate 2 of the baffles that are in there that help with noise reduction. There's currently a total, and I have a picture here. It's not the greatest picture, but this is one that we used in our discussion today. There's currently like 4 baffles inside this ductwork right at both 90-degree elbows, the one from the supply and the one from the return. And what they're recommending is that somebody would go in through the ductwork and remove the 2 center baffles to provide a larger area for airflow and less restriction. They would still leave the 2 outer baffles on each side of the ductwork to provide an acoustic and help with the sound reduction or the noise reduction. Our engineer is going to review their proposal over the next 24 hours and get back to me if he has any concerns. And I told White that I would get back to them by the end of this week if they were going to proceed or if we had concerns. One big issue is a lot of the companies that are able to do this work, you know, come the 2nd week of June, around June 9th, that's when all the school construction work starts, and then we're going to have trouble getting people in here to do this. So I made that clear to them that I wanted this addressed sooner rather than later. Unless our engineer says that this is not going to have that significant impact or he has concerns, I think this is the next best choice to continue to work with White. I did request that they give us a decibel level reading before they do any work, and then we would want an additional decibel level reading after. So in the event that there's significant increase in noise, then they would have to address that. Both our engineer and their engineer don't think that's going to be the case because there's going to be some increase of noise once you increase the airflow by 4 or 5,000 CFMs, which we're missing right now. So there's just going to be some additional noise to begin with. But I told them that our board is very observant, and that if this thing sounds like an 18-wheeler, that we're going to have a problem. So we're going to make sure they do some additional questions with the silencer company to make sure to see, like, maybe is there a specific reading that each baffle accounts for in regards to the decibel levels. I think White's at a kind of a point of where they opened the conversation by saying the original 8 steps they agreed to do thought we're going to resolve the problem, and they're just as shocked as us of what they're finding out, and that they're continuing to have to work with us on this. At the end of the day, I said the board is allowing me to work with them. They're trusting that we can get this resolved in a civil manner and both parties be satisfied. And I said that all the board's expectation is that we have a unit that is operating of what we paid for several years ago, and is producing the airflow level that it needs to be putting and design the specifications. So that's where we're at with the pool.
Any questions for Kevin on the pool?
Yeah, the one concern I have is, and again, I realize you're trying to explain what you heard over a 2-hour meeting with a bunch of engineers talking, so that's not easy. Working for a utility, I can second that one, but the decibel reading is what the decibel reading is, and the unit was supposed to operate at 4,000 more CFMs with the baffles in it to control the noise. So, I mean, I know you have an engineer working on it, but, White needs to know right away, we want the flow and the quiet.
Right.
So if they have to insulate the outside of it with some kind of moisture-proof insulation to control the noise because they're taking the baffle, they might as well plan it in their design rather than have to come back and do it.
This is really like deja vu, because in that meeting I said I have a board member that works for a utility company, and the first thing he's going to say at the meeting tonight is that we paid for elbows that had 4 baffles in it, and we're still supposed to get to 24,000 CFMs. And so that's exactly kind of what I told, and Joel laughed, and he's like, no, he's not kidding, that's exactly what he's going to say. And sure enough, that's exactly what Tim said. But we told them the same thing. So I think they understood. I think Brad Paulson, their VP, walked away from the meeting knowing that sound will be an issue for us, and they need to make sure that sound's addressed.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
that's where we're at right now.
Are the 90-degree angles typical? I mean, is that how it's supposed to be designed?
I think it's similar to superintendents, attorneys, architects. They'll all tell you something different. Eventually, there eventually needs to be a 90-degree in both of those units. Some will tell you that 90 should have been dropped down further so that there was more room for the air to get down and then through the baffles. Their engineer for 2010 will say it's not a problem to have the elbow right at the bottom of the unit. The problem is that the air comes out of the supply unit, it drops down a hole, and it's already being expected to get through baffles and make a 90-degree turn. So that's a lot of air to move through not only a confined space with the baffle, but right away a 90-degree. That's what I've learned in engineering so far from all these conversations. I don't think it helped that the opening was supposed to be 48 by 72 and it's 36 by 24 because we had some.
That's the root of the problem.
They had some issues when they originally lined it up.
So why don't they fix those? Why do they not want to fix those?
Well, they did fix that. They cut the inside of the unit out more to create a larger opening.
But it didn't do anything, right?
Well, it didn't have the immediate effect, so that's why they're on the silencer issue. And I guess the second answer to that question is you're basically starting from scratch with a crane and lifting the unit off the roof and having to recut a hole and reattach ductwork, etc. And I would imagine they're trying to find the most feasible solution without having to go down that road.
Well, I will tell you right now, I'm not gonna go into ductwork, so. Just let you know right now, put me as a no on that one, so.
Kevin, I did some fluid mechanics work. I'd like to see the calculation that presents the fact that they think this will work. I just don't want to be like, chasing wild geese. There should be some type of analysis they did that this is gonna work, and I'd like to see it.
I might have an email that I can show you when we get back.
Because I'm concerned we're just postponing the inevitable here.
That's what I asked.
Well, we're relying on our engineer to look at the
Correct.
calculations.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Right, but
Who was paid to do
Who's
this?
separate? We're paying separate.
So if this removing of the sound baffles doesn't work,
I asked Dick, what's next?
what's next? What did they say?
Kinda same way you're looking at me right now.
Is it off the table to just do it?
I mean, they're gonna go back to the solution of draining the pool and putting up
what-
scaffolding and
that's what I'm gonna have to-
dropping the elbow?
That's what I'm gonna
That'd
have
be
to,
the next one?
I guess.
Before they go up on the roof and get with a crane and
Do it correctly?
That last option that you're asking about, I mean, that's a significant dollar amount. I think the second thing to that is they're saying there's nothing wrong with the roof unit. So why move the roof unit? And our argument would be,
Do you have airflow?
it's the way that the ductwork was attached to the roof unit, which your
right,
engineer
I thought there's
designed.
restriction because of the beams and that one
Right.
wall, they can't move the ductwork to match up the hole.
There was some restriction because of the 24-inch or 12-inch bender beam. I think I'm saying that right. But I did learn something else. There's design drawings, and then there's shop drawings. So the engineer said, well, here's our design drawings. It's supposed to match up perfectly, but the shop drawings, when they set it down because of the beams and the way the crane got in, here are the shop drawings. And that's where you see like half of the hole is covered. So that's why they made the second repair, which was cutting open the floor. As Mike Welch says, it's a great experience I'm getting, right?
See?
So I asked that same question, okay, 10, 14 days from now when this work's done and it doesn't go right, then what? Then we're draining the pool in the middle of the swim season. I can't have that. And
I'm just wondering if we ever have to drain the pool, we have to look at what the implications of that too is, because don't you need water to keep the walls and?
No,
and that pressure?
actually, the Y drains the pool every year, and then they do, and it's not a bad thing to drain the pool periodically, because you gotta look at the tiles and the pool and do maintenance regularly, so that you maintain your pool and keep your pool up.
again, I would think that's where pool expert A and pool expert B would have a
Yes.
difference of opinion, because some people would say draining the pool, then the decrease in that pressure can cause the foundation around the pool sides and some of the drainage pipes to shift because there's not as much pressure on it. And then things start rising or shifting, and that's how you start.
Every Y and every
Asking.
health club drains their water once a year.
Okay.
Again, I'm not an expert,
Don't shoot the engineering expert.
All right.
All right, next thing is facilities meeting, you brought that up?
Yeah, I think we should schedule a meeting.
Right, I
Maybe
don't know, I would agree. I think, as writing the comments down tonight, we definitely need to have an established policy, procedure to get the community involved and voice their concerns and provide us input as things carry on. I don't know at this time how much input there really is to provide until we get those title searches back and surveys and see where we go from here. I mean, obviously, we would have to start calling some in June or July. Once we get those things back, unless we're looking to just have another meeting.
Well, it
to-
could be just, I mean, at this point, so we don't disappoint people, it could just be reiterating what we have already, what we talked about. So
Yeah,
they have
I
more
mean,
of an
we could do
opportunity
that.
to feel like they, or somebody asked about how can we,
I do feel though, once we have all the information of the land survey, I think when you do a hearing, we need to make sure Carrie's here to be able.
Well, here's my concern. I don't wanna send false leads to the community either.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
If we've already shut the door on the forest preserve side of the world, then we need to tell the community that we explored it. Time-wise, we don't have the time anymore to explore this further with them.
Yeah, they're gonna have to do it on their own and go into the board.
But what good is doing it on our own?
I agree.
When we put the parking lot there.
I think that.
So what we need
yeah.
to do is, if we're gonna do this, then we need to bring, I don't know what we're giving, I think we're giving a false sense of issue, that there's actually an opportunity there for the forest preserve.
The way I
unless we're really open
Right.
to the forest preserve doing this.
No,
But
I
I
think-
think in the back of our heads, we also recognize the fact with another governmental body, we're talking 2 years at the minimum for it actually to get off their keisters to do something.
I did bring that up because they asked, why am I pushing so hard? And they said, well, what is your expected timeline? I said, best case scenario is this time next year, we'd be trying to break ground. And the tennis courts could possibly be off-site. Because you're right, we have some major life safety issues. Yeah, this is the parking lot's just a capital improvement that goes in jointly with that project. But the tennis courts, the bleachers, the track, the sidewalks around the track and the stadium, the fencing around, all that stuff is life safety. We are on a timeline, and we do have to address some of those things. Now, granted, we have 1 year on the A stuff, which none of this is A, but it's all second priority, but it's still on a timeline. And we know we got we're gonna have to pay another couple $1,000s again this summer to get those tennis courts grinded down for another season, just to limp through the fall.
Well, my concern, I'm not disagreeing necessarily with we had one citizen stand up and say, the forest preserve does swap property. We've had another one say, can't you at least get them here to talk? Laura suggested it. We have made no decisions, and I don't think we should, at least I'm not aware that we did. I agree with you. Even if we went to the forest preserve and they said, well, we might consider it, but it's gonna take 2 or 3 years, it might be prohibitive just because of the timeline, but, I'd like to say, since we haven't made a decision, let people hear what the suggestions are. If we can have forest preserve people come, again, let them say,
Or
we.
at least invite them and have them encourage, and then they
Yeah.
don't show up, and then they see how much interest there is.
I think
I think that's a
our
good
meeting had the top person in the forest preserve,
Superintendent, yeah.
and he was the one who said they don't swap
And
land.
that'd be great.
But
so-
it'd be good to hear him here and have the
But,
citizens say what
because
they
the problem
do.
though, Mike and Gary,
Right.
is we told them that, and a citizen came up and said that's not true.
Right.
So everybody walked away thinking
You were lying.
There's
either
an
we were
opportunity.
lying, or we were wrong, or we're stupid, or whatever.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
I've read,
Just-
I've read that, the
Yeah.
charter myself,
So, but-
1914.
so I'm saying is, it doesn't hurt for us to, even on the kind of the focus, here's a
And I
preliminary.
think some of the information, like when the zoo or the golf course or whatever swap land, I think there were some unforeseen there were some circumstances, like the railroad tracks were going right through the middle of that property, so there was no way to create a true recreational facility without having the train tracks.
And again, that's
So-
fine.
No, I just think people, you're right, every individual case has their, I think it would show a good faith effort to the community that
We invited them, and if they didn't show
we'll
up,
extend the
like I said.
invitation to everybody. We can't make anybody come. If they want to encourage people to come or write to their
And we,
local
the idea of whether you
representative.
can swap land or build a parking garage, again, I was a little bit involved in the other one, and people are saying there was a promise to build a parking garage. There was a thought to build a parking
Right.
Yeah,
garage.
but,
And at that time, both the cost and the reluctance of the Forest Preserve District was my understanding why that kind of moved on, because kind of like we're talking about here, but you still run into the same thing. You had at least 1 or 2 people say, there was a promise on a parking garage there. I don't think that's accurate.
Well,
But-
it's represented as if the zoo wanted to do it with
Yeah.
us. And
Yeah.
So all I'm saying, we can do things on parallel path. Yes, we need to do our survey and do our, title search, but they're kind of not relevant to the fact of whether we can get somebody at Forest Preserve come and say, hey, we aren't going to swap, we won't even consider it. We just, whether it happened before or not, we're not gonna do
Yeah.
it here, and it can end
We've
that.
got to agree, and we don't agree.
Well, and that when they brought up, there was the promise of the parking garage, because I was on the board at that time, that was when Dr. it's Stroh, right? Stoll was new to the zoo, and he has always tried to work with us as much as he could. And so he didn't know what we could do with that parcel of land, and he was open to working with us on that parcel of land. But the cost of every parking space was $10,000. So if we were gonna build a structure, there, we weighed that out. how much would we spend on that parking structure versus what else had to be done? And then Dr. Stahl had to also check with, he didn't know that he would have to work with the Forest Preserve and Cook County and everybody else, so it didn't happen. It couldn't happen.
Because the other thing we could do, Laura, if we probably don't have those records anymore,
Right.
but I presume we could have Carrie with very limited cost.
Right.
Tell us what the cost of a 2 or 3 story parking garage with 106, it's gonna be $6, $7, $8, $10 million. And as somebody already asked,
Yeah.
we could either build one parking garage and be done with all the funds we
Or,
have
yeah,
available.
what about the roofs and what about everything else?
Yeah, so, I think if we.
And I will tell you something right now, I did that day of service that you did with me too. My job was painting the rails of the stadium, of the bleachers. Even I was shocked what I was seeing out there.
Okay.
So,
I just think going
Pretty bad.
forward, if we're gonna make big decisions and discussions, like what does this board want to do going forward on something, we do that in a committee of the whole setting, because I don't know if is the other committee making decisions?
No, the committee can't make decisions, it's right in our policy.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to meet with him as an advisory council and bring it forward to the committee of the whole, but then once we make this decision,
Well,
bringing it for public input,
see, that's the problem, though. Everybody said the same thing. Please let us have input before you make a decision. And that's all I'm saying. That's not an unreasonable request. The committee can't make a decision. The policies specifically say that. That's
So-
why there's not a majority of board members on
so
the committee.
are we gonna, as a board, come up with a proposed idea to put forward? Or are we gonna let the idea come from the public back? That's what I'm
I would
asking.
think a proposal would come from the committee
Yeah.
to the board.
Yeah.
That, hey, we got this feedback from the community.
Right.
We still think this is our best option.
I see a meeting when there's absolutely no kind of even in the realm of decision-making. Here, we got a tennis court issue, a roof issue, we got a stadium issue, we have a stadium surface issue, we have a drainage issue, we have a parking issue. We've so far talked to these people, we're looking at what we own, and we have an architect say, based on the preliminary, what are some ideas, and, we're going to vet them out. People think we can build a garage, it's $10 million. Again, it's $5 million, it's $10 million, whatever it's going to be. It's really cost prohibitive, A, and B, here's the president of the zoo or the Cook County Forest Preserve District or whoever we can get, they're gonna tell you that they won't swap land with us. They won't support building a garage, or they will, whatever they will say, I don't know what they're going to say. But it would be a way for people to just,
I think
voice
that
their opinion.
if I'm looking at this going forward, just focusing on the parking, it's gonna be a 2-part meeting. The first meeting would be we're gonna have a meeting, we're going to facilitate it, we will invite members of the Forest Preserve District, Cook County Commissioners, you can come here. We facilitate it so they can ask questions to make sure it doesn't go, based on that meeting then, once all the MW, all the land surveys come back and everything else, then you have another public meeting where you have Carrie saying, okay, here, let me just show you, here's the drawing now, and this is what we can do. Here are the issues that were brought up at what we've heard. This is, here's flooding. Let me show you where the drain, what the MW, stuff like that, and have her almost be the lead to be asking questions about, hey, what do you think about this development and stuff like that. We follow in behind that, listening, and then we come back, then you come back with.
So, as a full board, we're prepared potentially to defer this parking lot to be one of the last things on the project. Because my concern will be is you're gonna get a couple Forest Preserve people go, well, we can put that in committee and we'll decide about it, and maybe it'll simmer for a year and a half.
no, again.
I think we gotta be
Again,
cautious.
That's my danger, is that they're not gonna come back
That's a
in
good
front of
point.
public and say,
Great
point.
what's my concern?
But, information was information is. If
Yeah.
they say that, our duty is to the school and the district. And if that, right there, taking a chance on a year and a half or 2 with the board, the Cook County, and who knows what would happen, could easily, the board could say, no, we're not even going down that avenue. We have to do something with the tennis courts in North Riverside sooner. So,
And that goes back
so,
to my
you know,
original
and that's why
point.
some people are saying, you know, it's gotta meet what the people on the street's expectations are. Well, you know, again, we wanna take input, do the best we can for the community, but no. It's gotta meet what's the best for the overall district and the students we serve there. And hopefully, we can please as many people as possible in going down that path. And we're not gonna please everybody, no matter what we do. So, having an exchange of ideas on, and have no decision-making at the committee, I don't see any downside of it.
You know, another benefit of having a larger meeting, we've had families from the Hollywood area come, and they said, well, you didn't show the families across the street. But when you have a larger meeting, you also show the families east of First Avenue where their kids drive here, and they will express their concern. Or you'll have the families from North Riverside, and when the families can talk to each other, they may come up with unique solutions, or they'll come to some resolution, but then I think you have
Well,
the-
Laura, you didn't get
everybody
the gist.
talk.
My message wasn't not to have the meeting and not to invite the community. I want the community to come out
Right.
and listen.
No, no, I
listen
didn't
to our.
say that.
My
I just-
concern
Right.
is that we're going to get into a quagmire with the other governmental other governmental people.
Yeah, I only think that we
That's
should,
my concern, and that
Right.
we would have strategically have to make sure we understand that's a
Right.
potential risk of doing this.
But it's a risk already if we don't do it. Because anyone, as Ed just said, call your local person and go talk to them and go to their meetings,
Yeah.
and they could tell them anything. So now we have it as a group in front of the committee, and
We
we
extend the
listen to
invitation.
what they say, and, you know, either it's something that we want to adopt based on what they say, or something that we don't.
But I do see with Gary, somebody getting pinned in the corner, all of a sudden go, oh, well, you know, we can look at that. You know what I mean? It's giving that low glimmer of hope when there really is no hope, but they're just trying to, you know, we gotta watch out for it, so.
but
As
I
far-
don't think we as a board wanna be the gatekeepers or like the block to public officials. If we can in any way facilitate a meeting where officials can come to a single building and community members can ask them a question. That's all we're saying, is to facilitate that ability to ask a question, because how does the average person get access to ask them? If you call their office, you won't get to ask them that question, face to face.
Okay, anything else? I
If
wanna
we,
get,
if we put the football field east to west, they're already
It's clever.
concerned about the lights now. Now we're gonna put the lights right over that one guy's house. And so
I
I
don't think it
don't,
would even, that's not even
It's not
realistic
wide
with the
enough.
track.
Not
or
wide
anything.
and then our million and a
No, you
half.
can make it long, it's not
and-
wide enough.
And our million and a
I
half
was doing
dollar
that before his
auto
suggestion.
building is right
could
in
be
the
for
way.
skyboxes up there. All right, so I have a motion, we wanna go into closed session now.
I don't have the motion.
Resolve the Board of Education, Township High School District 2A, Cook County, Illinois, enters closed session for the purpose of considering appointment, employment, dismissal of employees, student discipline, sale or lease of land, and litigation.
We have a second.
Second.
Second by Gary Gritz and Mary Ann.
Jessica?
Yes.
Mr. Jepson?
Yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Welsh?
Yes.
Mr. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Grisham?
Yes.
Mr. Cindy?
Yes, all right, that ends our meeting for tonight. Thank you very much. Have a happy Memorial Day, and we will see you
May 27th.
May 27th, the day after Memorial Day.